Hey guys, welcome to another show. This is Troy Francis broadcasting to you from the Audacity Network. My channel is called The Dating Game with Troy Francis. If you haven't subscribed to it already, then please do so. Hit subscribe, hit notifications so you're updated on all the videos and the wonderful juicy stuff that we have coming up and all the live streams. Currently, I am doing live streams on here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's going to be around this time, which is about 2 p.m. in the UK. Which is, I think, 1, 12, 11, 10, 9 a.m. in EST and 6 a.m. in Pacific time. Okay, so we're going to be doing those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll see how we go from there, really. But, yeah, I mean, this channel has only really been up for a short amount of time, but we're already picking up some traction. We've got over 1,000 subscribers. The watch time is up and everything. So, yeah, things are looking pretty good. And this is really just about... If you don't know me, I've been a dating coach for the last decade. I've taught guys all over the world for the last decade. Basically, you know, how to go and meet girls, how to bring new women into their life, how to get higher quality women than maybe the ones they've been getting already. Just helping out dudes with all of those sort of aspects. And over that period, I've amassed a ton of experience all over the world with different guys in different situations, and obviously my own dating life as well. And I've really studied this stuff. And so what we're doing here is we're really breaking down what's happening in the dating world, and sometimes what's happening in the manosphere and in the space as well. And we're taking valuable lessons from that can be applicable both to women, but also to men, or I should say both to men, but also to women, because we are doing content that is not female friendly as such, but we are doing content more aimed at women as well on this channel, talking about, okay, so here are some of the things that you need to look out for. Here are some of the red flags in men that you need to avoid. And here are some of the things that maybe you should be doing, okay, in order to optimize your dating life. So we're an equal opportunities content creator here, but we've got loads and loads of really cool stuff coming up. So stick with it. Do hit subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, let's crack on and we'll go on this journey together, as people say. So what I wanted to talk about today is basically the Matrix attacking the manosphere once again. And this time, it's closer to home. Well, it was pretty close to home before, to be honest, because if you look at the people that have been cancelled, or let's say semi-cancelled over the last sort of couple of years, actually all of them, pretty much. I mean, a lot of these big players I've actually known or I've actually met in real life. So obviously you had the whole thing that's going on in Romania at the moment. That's one thing. But then you have the likes of Fresh and Fit, who I do know, who I'm friends with. They got demonetized a while back. You've obviously got Pearl as well, who was demonetized fairly recently on her channel. And now my very good friend and business partner and a guy that, you know, I've been hung out with for many years and we've worked together and everything else, Mr. James Tusk has had his channel deleted, okay? So what's it all about? Why does this keep happening? And what are your thoughts on it? Okay, so we're going to be delving into this. I'm just going to be giving you some sort of like my thoughts on this, my sort of feedback, giving you some information. On my other channel, I did talk about this last night. We did a live stream with James himself. The internet connection, actually on both sides, for some reason was not great. But we're going to sort of react to a little bit of that and have a look at it to see what he had to say about this particular incident and what his plans are. And then we'll go from there. But fundamentally, the bottom line is, it seems to be, and I think we all knew this already, but it was kind of a shock that James, his channel was deleted. Like, he didn't even get a warning. It was like his channel was just nuked overnight. It was gone, okay? And that's kind of unusual, and I think it's also just a very good indication of where, you know, we are with all of this stuff. So, you know, not only subscribe to this channel and hit the notifications bell and give me a like, give me a comment and all that kind of good stuff, but you should also get on my email list as well. There's a link to that below, because the reality is, you know, none of us really know what's going to happen with any of this kind of content. And even though, you know, I'm a bit of a seasoned salt and pepper kind of older gentleman in this space, and I try to keep things relatively clean, nevertheless, what's becoming clearer is that this message in general, that is to say a message about male self-improvement and helping guys in the dating sphere and helping them to level up in all other areas of their life as well, so they're not just eating Cheetos and sitting on the couch and playing video games. This message, for some reason, and we can delve into why, appears to be particularly unpopular with the powers that be, okay? Whether that's in the corporate world or whether that's politically or whatever else, all right? So what I'd ask you to do is put your comments on this into the chat, put your questions into the chat, and we can talk about it as we go through. Okay, we've got a comment here from SJ. Good to see you, sir. Who says, Austin Summers got attacked. Program deletes. Maybe you should reach out there and work out a workaround, but be careful. So last night, when I was talking to James, we were on stream, we did hear some stuff about Austin Summers. Now, Austin Summers is not somebody that I know, and I'm not hugely familiar with his stuff either. I mean, I know who he is. I've seen him obviously online, etc., etc. He's a dating coach. He's a teaching guys how to get better with women guy. Seems like a decent enough guy. I don't know a huge amount about him, and that's kind of it, really. But we did hear, when we were on the stream, people in the comments were saying that he's had some issues as well. So, once again, there's a recurring pattern here, isn't there? It does seem to be very targeted at a particular sort of information and a particular sort of content creator. That's why I'm wearing a suit, because I'm trying to look smart and sort of go under the radar and be a little bit more, nuanced about this stuff. But it does seem like there is a vendetta, or there is, a bit of a purge going on. I feel half naked. Good to see you, man. I hope you've subscribed to the channel. Thank you very much for joining us here. So he says, it's funny that Chinese PUA hasn't been cancelled on YouTube yet. Just shows how progressive America is. Yeah, I would imagine, I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine that, and maybe you can tell me, I would imagine that there are some very big Chinese channels that are talking about all of this kind of stuff. And from what you're saying, it sounds like they've been left intact, which is kind of interesting. You're right. I wonder why that is. Yeah, I think the Anglosphere in particular is just very sort of very down on this kind of stuff for a number of reasons. And of course, the other thing to say, obviously, we're heading now into the election cycle, right, in the United States. Now, last night came the news, well, it was last night for me anyway, in London. Overnight, Trump was involved in that caucus, which took place in, I forget, what town was it, in America? And it looks like, he came out massively ahead. So that's interesting, right? It's looking like, if that's an indicator of things to come, that's a very interesting thing as far as, global politics, geopolitics is concerned. And what Rollo Tomassi has always said, and this has happened a couple of times now since I've sort of worked with him, you get these election cycles, and when you get into an election cycle, which is what we're coming into now, then things start to go a bit weird. They start to go a little bit crazy, and you start to get these kinds of odd things happening online. You get this kind of resurgence of sort of traditionalism. You get this kind of pushing against anything that's a little bit sort of out there. And you certainly, and if we're looking at this as a left-right thing, you would certainly, from the left, you would get anything that's seen as being a little bit countercultural, or the message is seen as being a little bit challenging, or not what they want you to say, then there's a good likelihood that that's going to end up being suppressed in some way. Okay? I Feel Half Naked says, there's only one big red pill YouTube cancel, but not PUA. Okay. I mean, look, so here's the thing, right? So James is, for those of you who don't know him, James Tusk is a British guy. He's a dating coach. I've known him for many years. He is a very successful person in the space. He studied what we would call day game, which is basically approaching during the daytime in coffee shops, in the streets, in stores, etc., going and chatting up girls. And he became very successful with it. He trained with people like Tom Torero. Some of you will be aware of him. And some of the other early exponents of the art of going up to somebody you don't know and having a conversation with them and getting their phone number, if that could be called an art. And he got very good at it. Now, Tusk is a very good-looking guy. He's very, he's jacked. He's well put together. He used to play rugby. And he is also very charming and very charismatic. And he's very empathetic as well. So he has a very interesting cluster of attributes that sort of come together and have made him very popular, both as somebody dating women, because women like him. Obviously, women love him. A lot of women do. But equally, as a content creator as well. He was very successful. Now, his channel was around the 37,000 subscriber mark. Now, he'd been running that channel for years. So, uncharitably, and somebody said this on stream last night, uncharitably, you could say, well, you know, he'd been running it for years. Actually, that's pretty low. It could have been higher. It really should have been higher. It should have been a lot higher. And his suspicion, and he's probably right in this, is that he was somewhat shadow banned on the platform, okay? I think that's probably correct because, you know, the content that he was putting out was very, very good, you know? Not both videos with him demonstrating approaches and demonstrating conversational techniques and breaking them down and talking about them, but also these more sort of, and stuff. I did a lot of stuff with him on that channel, and more sort of, we would like to say, existential conversations where you're talking about, okay, so what are the broader themes around this? I mean, what should a man be looking for in his life? Where does fulfillment come from? Is it from the mindless, endless pursuit of sexual satiation, or is it from other things, right? You know, should we be going for a relationship? Should we be going for just the pleasure of sex? Is there a balance somewhere in between? As a guy gets older, what does that bring into it, etc., etc.? And he talked about all other things as well, like fashion, hormonal optimization became a big thing, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, and lots and lots of kind of fun, funny stories and things in between, stories about debauchery and doing crazy stuff, and travel as well. I mean, that's a big thing for Tusk, travel. He's traveling the whole time, right? And actually bringing that to life and showcasing it. Now, really, when you think about it, the big names of people that used to do that, you would have the RSD guys, okay? So you would have Owen Cook from Real Social Dynamics, and they would sort of do travel in a way, because they would be teaching boot camps around the world. So they would do a video and suddenly it would be in, you know, Vancouver, and then the next one's in Paris, and then there's a video coming from Toronto, and then there's a video from here and there and whatever, okay? So they were kind of doing that. And then you had Tom Torero, who was a day game guy from the United Kingdom. Now, he was a smaller content creator, but very influential and very loved. And his whole thing was travel. So he would do a podcast, an audio podcast once a week, where he would talk about, you know, oh, now I'm in this beautiful, you know, rainforest somewhere, or now I'm in, you know, the back streets of Barcelona, or now I'm here, now I'm there. And he would very much foreground the travel. And he did that in his videos as well, because he was a very, very good video editor. Now, Torero sadly left the scene and is now no longer with us. Okay, he's been gone for a couple of years now, which is very sad. But James really picked up the mantle from that. And when you think of the big content creators online, really, even though James's channel was relatively small in the big scheme of things, he was, I think, the only person that I can think of who was doing content which was actually about, okay, really going out there and doing it, and going to these crazy places as well. You know, going to Colombia, going to, I don't know, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Ukraine. Even last year, he was in Ukraine. He's planning for Venezuela next week. I mean, going to these crazy places and less crazy places, and a combination, and going there and really testing out the dating marketplace, finding out what's up, finding out what's going on, finding out what works and what doesn't, and then documenting it and giving it back to the people who are watching. Nobody else really was doing that. And I include myself in that, because I've been creating content in this space for quite a long time, and I travel somewhat, you know, but I never, certainly back in the day, you know, I never used to travel anything like as much as he did. So he really is sort of flying that flag for the guy who is just like, listen, sod it, sod the Matrix, sod, you know, working for the man, sod doing all of this boring stuff. I'm just going to go and travel the world. I'm going to be a bit of a playboy, and I'm going to document it. I'm going to teach other guys how they can do the same thing. So he was offering something that was really, I say valuable, you know, it was kind of unique, and it was kind of, he was really the only person who was doing it to the scale. Well, he was the only person doing it to that scale. You know, other people, maybe they were doing it a little bit, but he was the guy who was really doing it and at the forefront, okay? It seemed like his channel was, you know, shadow banned somewhat. I mean, he wasn't really, they started to grow. I mean, they hit 20,000, then they sort of got up, finally got up to 30,000. It seemed to me like it was growing a little bit faster recently. He says it wasn't. He says that the actual, you know, subscriber upticks every month were falling. And again, he put that down to, you know, he put that down to some kind of shadow banning on the platform. And the other thing as well is it's really crazy with the algorithm. It's really crazy how this whole thing works, because then you look at other people. You know, you look at how quickly Fresh and Fit came up. Look at how quickly Pearl came up, and even people like Christine, who works on the Audacity network, right? You know, you look at how quickly those people accelerate, And then you think, okay, so Tusk, really, it took him years, and he was only at that level. So already, it kind of seems like, was he being pushed down for some reason? Was there some kind of algorithmic kind of thing against him which ensured that he was not going to hit the heights of some of these other content creators? Possibly, but the great thing with him is that he's very resourceful, and he's he's very engaging. So even though the audience numbers weren't that big, his engagement with the audience was super, super high. People really loved his content. People really loved him. He would sell out boot camps. He would basically live he would very, very good salesperson, would make a lot of money, live a great life, do all this fun stuff, and really just help people along the way. And that, all fantastic. And now, all of it's gone. Now, all of 7 years of work is all gone, okay? And so I was going on Twitter and basically saying, it's a matrix attack and all this kind of thing. And some people were sort of like agreeing with me, and they're like, okay, yeah, this is really bad, etc. And then there's other people who are going to be naysayers, and they're kind of pushing against that explanation of events. But the reason that I give that explanation of events is not because I'm some, tinfoil hat wearing person. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist for the most part. I tend to my general overview of this stuff is that a lot of things happen in society because of incompetence rather than because of some grand overarching plan, okay? However, with this, you do have to ask the question, why is it that this guy had a channel for 7 years and he didn't even have any strikes against him? He didn't, yes, a bit shadow banned, no strikes, and then suddenly, overnight, they delete the channel. Now, he had just started to upload content about our program, which is called The Edge, which is a 10-week program where we take guys through the whole process of basically grabbing your balls and becoming a more masculine version of yourself, okay? We cover everything from hormone optimization to social freedom to social skills themselves, fitness, fashion, style, everything else, okay, to become that razor-sharp, super alphaized version of yourself, okay, who is not only going to be successful in terms of dating, because what do women really look for? They're kind of looking for that guy, really, who is less and less available because now everyone's so soyified because of what's happening in the West anyway, and things like this, the war on masculinity. It also helps you in other areas of your life, though. If you're looking to grow a business, if you're looking to, network with people, if you're looking to have a successful life, these attributes are all going to help you, okay? It's very strange that as soon as he uploaded some content relating to that, suddenly his channel gets nuked overnight, okay? So, none of us knows exactly what happened, but you tell me why that's such a coincidence and why that happened if there's just some totally innocent explanation for this. It doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. All right, so comments. So Frank Schoenenberg says, is James going to Rumble? I don't know yet, actually. We'll have a look in a minute what he said on the interview I did yesterday, but I don't know. I mean, I think he hasn't made a full decision either way quite what he's going to do. I mean, he's got some work related stuff coming up. So he's in Latin America, he's got a boot camp coming up, and he's then going to, I think, take some time and kind of chill and just figure out, okay, so what exactly do I want to do here? All right? Because, it's obviously, you've worked on something for years. It's obviously a big blow. It suddenly just gets taken away from you, right? So he needs a bit of time to sort of process that and figure out. I mean, I've talked to him about Rumble. He is aware of it as an option. I think the issue with Rumble, and actually Pearl was saying this on Twitter just the other day, maybe yesterday, the issue with Rumble is it's not really, it's great, it's a good platform, but it's not YouTube. It's certainly not yet. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have anything like the scale of YouTube still. So the value of YouTube is that you can go on there and you can really build a brand on there. You can really reach new people, even now. The issue with Rumble is that the user base is so much smaller. So yes, on the one hand, it can be good because you can get people over there, and people, and his fans, people that like his content, they would obviously go and join that Rumble channel. But a proportion of them wouldn't, because there's always going to be drop off when something like that happens. And then in terms of finding new people, are there actually enough people on the Rumble platform in order to fill up that shortfall? Probably not, or at least it's going to be harder than building on YouTube. Okay, so I don't think he's made a final decision on that. I think Rumble is a good platform. I'm personally, thinking about it, and everything else. But as I say, it's not a perfect solution. It's a great video hosting platform, or it's a good video hosting platform, but it doesn't quite have the mass and the gravitas that YouTube has as yet, which is a problem. I feel Half Naked says, London day game model was cool idea back in the day. You guys look more united but separated at the end. You guys look more united but separated at the end. I guess this is what male dominance does. We just want different territory. Okay, so I'm not... Yeah, fine. I'm not quite sure exactly what you mean by that. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. So the first thing to say is that... So there's this idea about the London day game model, okay, which is fundamentally, basically what James taught. And it's basically the foundation of what I teach guys. So if a guy comes to me and he says, listen, I want to meet some more women and I want to improve my dating skills, what we're all teaching really is this fundamental platform, which is the London day game model, which is basically a 5-step model that you can use. The first step is, right, go and introduce yourself. Hey, listen, I saw you look cute. I wanted to come say hi. The second thing is you make some statements. Oh, you look like maybe you're not from here. You look like maybe you are a high-powered lawyer. You look like maybe you are a librarian. You look like maybe you are a stripper. Don't say that. You look like maybe you're an OnlyFans girl, okay? And then hopefully she comes back and says something like, no, actually, I'm from Spain. So then she's given you a subject, okay, to talk about. Then you might tell a story, or you might talk a little bit about how, you visited Spain, your experiences there, how great it was, how cool it was, how crazy it was, or whatever. She listens to this, and then hopefully she kind of hooks into it. And maybe she asks a few questions, and you respond. She kind of hooks into what you're talking about, and then it becomes a two-way dialogue, okay? When you get to that point, which is the hook point, then you can think, okay, right, well, I can relax a little bit now, because clearly she's quite happy to be here. Clearly this conversation is going quite well, so I don't have to be kind of super flirty or super gamey anymore. I can kind of tone it down, be a little bit more of a regular guy. Oh, so where do you live? What do you study? And stuff like that. And then at the end, you go for the close, which is basically getting a phone number. So you say, hey, listen, this has been cool. I do have to go now because my friend's over there waiting, but another time we should grab coffee, put your number in here and let's meet up, or I'll message you. Okay? That is the basic model that the London day game model is. Okay? But it's not this sort of like religious thing that's carved on stone tablets and it's handed down from a mountainside and everyone's adhering to it in this super formal way. It's a very loose framework that you can use at the beginning in order to organize, the conversation if you don't really know what you're saying or you don't really know how these things should go. Okay, so yeah, it's good, but it's not the sort of bread and butter of everything. So when you say it was cool back in the day, I think it's useful now as a conversational structure, but that's it. I don't think it's sort of like this kind of make or break thing. And then when you're saying you look more united but separated at the end, I don't know if you mean me and Tusk, or I don't know if you mean just various other people in that space. But we've always worked together. We are united. I mean, we've got this joint program, which is the Edge 3, which is out now. And if you do want information on that, by the way, just email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and I can have a conversation with you. But basically, it's opened this week. It closes on Sunday. We're closing it for the online course, £597. And basically, we take you through all these different areas of, masculinity and how to be the best version of yourself and how to get more women or better higher quality women or better opportunities with women in the process. Okay, this might be the last course that James is teaching because we don't really know at this point what he's going to do, what his next plans are, but he is committed to this. So, if you like his content and you want to support him and also you want to level up, because that's what really ultimately this is all about, then drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we can get you sorted with that. But anyway, the point is that he wasn't expecting this. He doesn't know why it's happened, really. And the whole thing just stinks of suppressing an idea. It just seems like anything related to this is just not popular now. It's not accepted by the mainstream. When I say the mainstream, that, of course, includes the corporations, okay? The powers that be, right? So let's have a look. I Feel Half Naked says, it still surprises me when it comes to sales, money. People aren't offended, but when it comes to game, people do so. Oh, okay, right, okay, yeah. Well, so what I think you're saying is that the process of sales, selling something to somebody, whether that's a business or a consumer, is kind of similar to the process of game. And yes, that is true. There is truth in that. But I think, well, yeah, I mean, why is it different? Well, it's different because it can be, some people would say, well, you're being manipulative, you're being sort of a predator or something like that. I vehemently disagree with that. I think that's absolute nonsense. You know, if anything, what we're teaching with this dating stuff is basically being yourself, or being, this is the caveat everyone always puts, the best version of yourself, okay? You don't want to just be yourself if you're the chode who's sitting in the basement eating the Cheetos, metaphorically or literally, but, you know, it's also not about pretending to be someone radically different to who you really are. It's not about pretending to have a Bugatti if you haven't got one. It's not about pretending to be a CEO or a top Wall Street banker if that's not your reality, okay? It's about leveling up in all areas, which includes, you know, your masculinity, so that includes testosterone, but it also includes things like social freedom, social skills, risk-taking, fearlessness, etc., etc. And also leveling up as much as you can in terms of your appearance, how you look, how you put yourself together, and having the balls to go out and actually communicate with women. Okay, so it's a coalescence of those things, right? That is the roadmap to success, and that's really what we're teaching, and that's what we're teaching in the course. So yeah, it kind of is similar to sales, but it is. I suppose the difference is it relates to sex and it relates to intimacy, and that starts to become problematic, or certainly it starts to become problematic if you're living in a world where the idea of masculinity is now inherently in itself seen to be suspicious, or at the worst case toxic, okay? And that, I think, is the fundamental problem we've got here. It's not that going up to somebody in a coffee shop and saying, oh, you know, you've got a nice coat on, that looks really cool, is inherently a bad thing. I think it's bad faith for anybody to argue that that's the case. It's obvious nonsense, okay? And then at the end of that, saying, oh, you've got a really nice coat, and she says, oh, thank you, that's so nice. And then you're like, hey, listen, you know, maybe we could grab a coffee sometime. Let's exchange numbers. I mean, anybody who thinks that that is some terrible bad thing to do is not really living in reality, okay? But, you know, we are in this politicized environment where, you know, the relationship, particularly between men and women, is very much under scrutiny now, and the ways in which people utilize advantages in that market is very much under scrutiny. And if something appears to be too sort of predetermined or too sort of pre-thought through, it's deemed suspicious, okay? Particularly by people in the mainstream, or maybe people more towards the left of the discourse. Now, actually, of course, the reality is that everybody uses some sort of dating strategy, women included, and probably women more than men. And I mean, we could do a whole show, and probably will do a whole show on how women can be as manipulative, and probably more manipulative, actually, than men, because women are very, very, very good at game, okay? And one of the things, actually, James would always say is, it's like I'm speaking about him in the past tense, he is still alive, but one of the things that he would often say is that, you know, the thing about this stuff is, about learning dating skills, is effectively all we're trying to do is get up to the same level as a woman, because women are very, very naturally socially savvy at this stuff, okay? Or they've learned this because it's been their main tool for getting the things that they would like to get in their lives, okay? Because they're not going to use anything, they're unlikely to use physical force. Not saying guys do always either, but, you know, a guy has that capacity more than a woman who tends to rely on what you might call soft skills or social skills, okay? So their social skills, female social skills, are a lot better on average. And really, the whole process of learning game for a guy is simply catching up to where women are. You know, it kind of comes down to that. You know, if we can get up to the level of how good an attractive young 23-year-old woman in Miami, for example, is at social skills, then our game as a guy would be very, very good, okay? It sounds crazy, but that's kind of the way it is. Because we're conditioned in different ways. You know, we have different life experiences. Women are pushed into social situations in a way that men just aren't. Most men just aren't. Because even if you're like a super, super hot, you know, top 1% Calvin Klein model type dude, you're not going to be approached all that much. You are going to be approached a bit by women, but a lot of women will be too nervous to do that. Other women will not do it anyway because it's just not their principle to do that. Whereas attractive women get approached all the time. So they're pushed into these social situations that continually take place. They don't have they have a choice to walk away, but, it's something that's kind of just happens to them. And so they get a lot of experience in it. They're very good at reading body language. They're very good at reading social cues, and they're very good at engaging with those conversations. And so all of those skills, by the time they're like 23, 24, 25, are massively honed in a way that a 25-year-old guy, particularly one who maybe hasn't got much dating experience, is just not going to have. Okay, so there is a game of catch-up that needs to happen here. But in terms of, if you're looking at it as something that's sort of manipulative, then really, just look at the dating books that women have. Some of it's pretty eye-opening stuff, actually. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, put your comments in the chat. Any questions, put them in the chat regarding dating, myself, James Tusk, what his plans are, and also just more generally regarding, the manosphere and masculinity and what's happening with this wave of cancellations and demonetizations and all this kind of good stuff. Okay. SJ said it's remarkable how well FNF maneuvers after demonetization. Well, yeah, I mean they're obviously very smart. They're great businessmen. They're great hosts. They are very, very competent. They work extremely hard. They know what they're doing. And they seem to be doing very, very well. They've moved to a new studio space. It's quite a long time ago now. It's some months ago, but they've moved to a new studio, which is even bigger and better. They're doing stuff on YouTube still because you can still broadcast. If you're demonetized, like with Pearl, you can still broadcast on YouTube. It's fine. You can put video content out there and you can still reach people. It's just that you don't get the ad revenue. So it's bad because if your business model is getting ad revenue, then that's a problem. But at least you can still talk to people. You can still put your message out there. And then you can drive people across to another platform. So in their case, obviously they've got Rumble. They're driving people across to Rumble. And Rumble thus far has been a much more permissive platform for this kind of content. So yeah, they seem to be riding the wave very well. They seem to be doing fine. So good on them. But at the same time, scale does come into it somewhat. And they are obviously very, very big. Tusk is well known and well loved by the people that know, many of the people that know him, but he's not super huge. Okay, so whether it's going to be, and also his channel's completely gone, which is obviously different to what happened with them. So how he bounces back from it is going to be somewhat different, I would say, to what they've done. But yeah, anyway, it's all in the works. So Doug MPA says, Troy Francis is the man. So glad this channel got started. Thanks, man. Appreciate it very much. What we could do now is have a little look at a video I did yesterday. We can react to my own video where we actually spoke to James and asked him himself what his plans are. Now, the issue with this is that the connection for some reason wasn't very good. So the quality of this may be a bit jerky, but we can give it a go and sort of see what the vibe is. I think the fact that we're normalizing substance intake is very telling. We're not normalizing it at all. What a fucking stupid thing to say. And now, without further ado, Mr. Tusk. You see? Terrible. Hello. Terrible. We're seeing it in front of our eyes, guys. Why do you hate the Northern Day Game community? I don't. It's just a joke. Fucking hell. Troy has a calling as a barrister. Great debater. Thank you. Yeah, agree with.
I think there's a few things to. People are surprised I wasn't. Yeah, it's
him. Wormy. How's Tusk? Okay, so at this point, basically Tusk goes into a bit of a rant where he talks about what's happened and people's perceptions of it. So let's have a listen to that, and then we can react to that. In the meantime, any questions, put them into the chat, and we can discuss them in a second. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so hello.
Bonjour. How's things?
Not bad. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm very good. Apart from missing my flight to Venezuela was a ball ache, but I'm going to go on Wednesday instead, so it's all gravy.
What a disaster.
Que horror.
Unbelievable. I mean, like, I don't know why I mean, internet. I mean, thank God I'm here now. Thank God the Audacity Network has rescued me from the internet gods, because I mean, my history with internet is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm in my place here and I've got like very, very fast internet and it's still crap. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Even Tusk is better and he's in Colombia at the moment.
But it's good to be back on some sort of platform, albeit temporarily.
So you are speaking to us from. Well, I guess you. I don't know. You've been attacked by the Matrix, so I guess you're sort of outside the Matrix. But like, are you in some like dystopian, like in Family Guy when he goes into that weird thing and it's just all grey because you've been thrown off the internet? Is that what it's like?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think people are surprised I wasn't more pissed off by it, but I'm genuinely not. I was the old channel. You know, I wanted to do some things differently, and I think YouTube, it's almost a blessing in disguise, right? And when you compare this stuff to like, you know, what's happening around the world, you know, women being called up to the front line in Ukraine, it's just such a occurrence, right? The message we're putting out is going to continue. The obvious thing that is concerning is the fact that some of the stuff that was going to go into the Edge 3, so that were private videos, YouTube saw those. I don't know how they see them, and they automatically just terminated the channel, right?
Yeah. So that's the point, right? So so people are saying, well, it's probably because he did something else. It's probably because, you know, people were saying, well, he's filmed in fields. You know, he's filmed these videos where he's talking to girls in the street. I mean, actually, that's all perfectly legal in most territories. It's actually fine to film. You know, there's a sort of acceptance that you might get filmed when you're out and about in public in most countries. So that's fine. That's not the problem. It might be a problem if somebody complained, but I mean, if they did complain, he'd just take it down anyway. So that's not the problem, and they haven't complained anyway. So that's not the issue. And then other people are saying, well, you know, maybe he mentioned some kind of illicit substance or something like that. I mean, maybe, but for a start, he's been mentioning that stuff for a long time, and it hasn't been a problem. Certainly not a problem for an immediate deletion. And secondly, you know, there's some leeway for sort of laddish humor and banter here, and there is also some leeway, even on something like YouTube, for people talking about their experiences, you know, with substances and other things. There are whole channels based on it. So it seems unlikely to me. It does seem like that as soon as he uploaded this content, which was masculine content, you know, and slightly racy in parts, which I think he talks about in a second, but basically content about how to level up and, you know, be the man and all this kind of stuff. Suddenly his channel gets nuked. It's very strange. It's very suspicious. And even if you're not conspiratorially minded, it is a little bit odd, to say the least.
I think they are looking for ways to pin down and stop channels like ours, which try and give advice in the Anglosphere to men to try and self-actualize, right? So that's the really concerning thing. I think there's a few things to clear up as well in terms of misconceptions. So first, this isn't a fucking marketing ploy, right? I've put blood, sweat, beers, and tears, as has Les the last 8 years in building this YouTube channel. We've got shadow ban years back. That's why the growth, in my opinion, has been so slow. And it's absolutely not a ploy to try and sell the Edge course. The Edge course, we were always going to release the Edge 3 anyway.
Yeah.
But now we can't promote it on YouTube, hence why you're promoting it. But this isn't some like privatize my channel and that comes back again.
Yeah. It'd be good if it was. It'd be good if it was really. Well, this guy here, GS, says... So some people were making that conspiracy theory. They think that this is just some kind of sales ploy, and then Tusk is going to come out from behind the curtain and, you know, reveal himself once more, and then the channel's back. That's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if YouTube does. You know, I think he's able to repeal it, so obviously they'll try and do that. I think it's relatively unlikely that they're going to give it back, but you never know. I mean, stranger things have happened. His first channel apparently got banned for something else, and then they did actually give that channel back some months later. So you never know, but I mean, I would say, as a betting man, I would veer towards the more unlikely side of it actually happening. Matrix attracts James because of the Edge's launching. Why haven't they taken down your channel? Well, the thing is, because James had uploaded videos, which I haven't uploaded yet, to my channel.
They are slightly racy. You know, some of the Edge content is pushing the boundaries, and the wokosphere, the Anglosphere, don't like the sound of it, right? But what we really tried to do in the Edge 3 is do what other people are not doing in the game space, right? Which is gone are the days of being this, you know, Torero-esque money is an indication of lower value routines. It's all about building yourself up to be holistically the best you can across all areas, right? So the finances, the fitness, the living an interesting reality, hormone optimization, getting rid of sexual shame. And so the Edge course is a refinement of everything that we've had to go through, myself, Troy, and Les, over 20 years, combined into a 10-week course, right?
So this is one thing. This is quite interesting. So what we've seen over the years, if you are in the space, you know, you've been following dating advice, pickup stuff, and you've then been following the red pill stuff, and the sort of coming together of those two things. And Sartain talked about this recently, actually, that he was talking to, what's the female dating coach called? Anyway, he was doing an interview, and he was basically making this point that those two things used to be fairly separate, or at least there was a dating advice thing, there was a pickup thing, and then the red pill became a thing, and then they slowly kind of merged, and now they're sort of together in some ways. And what Tusk is talking about there is actually very telling, because you did have a period of time 10, 15, 20 years ago when the whole emphasis on, you know, like game was around, okay, so what do I say to her? What are the lines that I'm going to use? What approach am I going to do? You know, what stories am I going to tell? What cool things can I throw in there to make her like me? You know, there was no focus really on looking good, having money, being in shape, having a Bugatti. You know, none of that stuff came into the equation at all. And what we came to realize is that aside from having a Bugatti, you know, actually those things are really damn important. And for guys, and they're particularly important now in 2024 when, you know, everyone's got Instagram. All right, everyone's got Instagram. So, you know, it's no longer, you can't really hide behind a facade that you fabricated. That was, I mean, let's also put it out there, that would never have been an ethical thing to do anyway. Right? You know, it's not ethical to pretend to be something you're not with a woman that you're interested in. But even if you were going to go down that route, it's now much harder to do that because she just has to have a quick look at your Instagram, and she kind of makes a comparison between you and the other dudes who are sliding into the DMs, or she's met on the dating app or whatever. And, you know, if you're not measuring up, there's likely going to be more attractive possibilities around than you. Now, having said that, that doesn't underplay the need for game. You know, that doesn't underplay the need for social skills, because actually, and James talks about this, I think, later on, if you can make or if you can make a sufficient emotional impact on the woman in your interaction, then you do override some of that stuff. You know, like she's not necessarily just going to immediately dump you for the rich dude, you know, if you've made that decent impression. But having the money and having the means certainly helps to get you in the door, as does looks and as does status and all these other things. So, and in the old days, these things were almost entirely discounted. Okay, they were almost entirely brushed to one side, because the idea was, the game people were selling this idea that, well, if you just learn my formula, if you just learn my lines, it's all going to be great, and the Victoria's Secret model is going to go home with you. Now, even if you did luck out and she went home with you, is anything going to come of that? Is it going to persist any longer than that? Probably not, right? Because she realizes that you're not the man. You know, you don't actually have it going on in the way that you claim to, and that's going to be a problem for her, particularly when there's so much other competition around there. So that's what he's talking about here.
And we're deliberately pricing it at £579 because we want this stuff to be accessible. This isn't some sort of marketing trick of me taking down the channel, sell more spaces. Trust me, it'd be far more fucking effective for me to have a subscriber count of 30,000 people I can pump this out to, rather than fucking zero. So whichever fucking morons are saying that is, you know, you fucking just get on. The other thing is, loads of people, I've realized how much people don't want to fucking improve this stuff. Like, I've got, to be fair, like really nice messages from loads of guys being, oh, I'm so sorry your content's been taken down. I've been following you for years. And I'm like, cool, man, no problem at all. All assimilation of all the knowledge from 25 years combined with Les and Troy's in the course, The Edge. Why don't you get that? It's 579. And they're like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of, my life's kind of sorted in this area. And then what I say to them is, right, show me the women you're currently banging. And a lot of them get really angry and just go away. So that's a sign that they're not doing anything. Or I say, how many approaches have you done in the last 3 weeks? And then they go offline, or they say 3. Or I say, show me a photo of yourself. Show me how much money are you earning? Like, what do you look like? Blah, blah, blah. And they go offline, right? So there's a lot of fucking wallflowers here that love following the fucking content. But when push comes to shove, they're not willing to do the work, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to live this lifestyle where, look, we've got, especially me, I've got so many fucking flaws, right? Hedonistic tendencies. I can be awkward as fuck sometimes. It just all sorts of drug addictions going on. But what I try and do is I try and constantly every day self-actualize and self-master.
So it's quite cool that he said that, isn't it? Just giving a bit of props to him there as a guy. I mean, the fact that he is upfront enough to come out and just sort of own that is really cool, I think. And you know, there was some joking about it on the stream before, and sort of, you know, oh, you know, what's Tusk up to in Colombia and all this kind of thing. And I think, for me personally, I think somebody's talking about role models and stuff, and I think for me personally, I think we can learn a lot from people who are flawed, but they recognize that they're flawed, and they are working to improve themselves, and they're happy to talk about that. You know, like one of my favorite content creators was James Altucher. You know, I don't listen to his stuff as much now, but I certainly used to listen to his podcast a lot. And James Altucher, not a dating guy or anything like that, he's kind of self-improvement, success, business kind of a guy. But he would talk a lot about some of the horrendous things that happened to him with his relationships and losing money and losing houses and, you know, all this kind of crap going on in his life. And that was really how he built a big audience, and secondly, really how he helped a lot of people, because you've got to be prepared, I think, to be a little bit sort of naked in this space. You know, you've got to be like people. Like, yes, on the one hand, it's good to be aspirational. It's good to be, oh, he's the man. You know, I want to be like him. I want to have those muscles. I want to have those cars, blah, blah, blah. But equally, there is also value in showing some vulnerability as well, and showing, okay, but actually I've had to get through some stuff. I've had to overcome some stuff, okay? Because we can all relate to that. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, Tusk was successful online, because he's able to be the decent-looking guy who's well put together, and in many ways is living a very enviable lifestyle, but he's also able to, you know, embody this kind of slightly more vulnerable kind of character as well, and really talk about the nitty-gritty. And I think that's an important thing. And I think actually, you know, it's to be admired, really, I would say.
I'm that man I want to be, right? Yeah. So we try and put out this journey, and we try and be as vulnerable and honest as possible with people with that. We're not superhuman, but we are trying to get better. And I think a lot of guys, what they want to do is they don't want to put in the work. They don't want to try and get better. They want to sit there, theorize their way to victory. It doesn't fucking work, right? You're going to live one life. There's a great quote that popped up on my Memento Mori app just now, which I thought was brilliant, which is, when you look at a corpse, you can always sense your own breath better. And it's true, like, right? You've got a certain number of heartbeats, certain number of breaths, and then that's it, sayonara forever, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
Why do people sit there victiming up, complaining? If you can't afford the Edge 3, you're a fucking moron, right? If you can't, the way society has always worked, the way the average age of our viewers is 35. If you can't afford to pay £579, you've got serious fucking issues, right? If you watch the content, you obviously resonate with us, you trust us, buy the fucking Edge course. And yes, it will help us out. We're content creators. Me and Les put out thousands and thousands of videos for fucking free, of us charging around the streets, getting a lot of rejection, getting some success, right? And then people sit there having the gumption to say, oh, Tusk, you're a scammer, you're charging for a course. Fuck the lot of you.
Well, I mean, and that's a problem in itself, actually, because on the one hand, you know, we can sit here and we can say, well, isn't it a shame that he got cancelled? Isn't it a shame that his channel got taken down? Isn't it a shame that, you know, we're seeing these demonetizations happening across the board, etc., etc.? And it is, yes, but at the same time, if guys are just going to sit there and not actually take any action based on the information that's being put out there, then, you know, it's all kind of for nothing anyway, right? And it seems like there's almost like a circular series of events here. So on the one hand, you've got guys not really wanting to take any action, but they do like to watch the content, particularly if there's drama in the content. You know, there's women arguing and people getting thrown out and Frank Castle and all that kind of stuff. People love the drama, all right? What they don't love as much is actually taking the action. So they're sitting there not really taking the action. And to improve their masculinity, to become, you know, the man they were meant to be and all of that good stuff. And you're also getting the platforms now pushing back on this kind of content. So we've got a double whammy of things that are impinging on guys in terms of progressing themselves, right? So if you're concerned about, you know, the West and masculinity in the West and stuff, it's not a pretty picture, because, you know, I mean, yeah, obviously if his channel was still up to date, that would be great. It would be great for him. It would be great for all of us, you know, in you know, who work together in this on this project. But I mean, you know, the wider thing is, if people weren't taking any action anyway, then, you know, it's just another nail in the coffin for those guys, because now they haven't even got the aspirational stuff that he put out to encourage them. Right, okay, so I'm going to look at the comments in the wrong bloody box. Hang on a sec, let me go back to, I need to go over here. So let us have a look through the comments. Any other comments, any questions, put them in the chat, please. Right, okay, so I Feel Half Naked says, good name. Is it bad to self-sabotage, to reject ourselves? I feel like I don't deserve a hot girl when I see her. Maybe I'm poorly dressed or I don't have a lot of money at that particular moment. Yeah, it's absolutely a bad thing. I mean, you shouldn't do that. So, look, I mean, there's several strands to this. On the one hand, yes, money muscles gain frame. Thank you, John MLD. Absolutely. That is the creed, that is the North Star that you should have. You should be working towards improving in all of those areas to the greatest extent you can. But at the same time, you've also got to kind of own it, and you kind of got to own where you're at, and you've got to, in your head, know your own potential. Okay, so you know your potential is to be great. Maybe you're not great at the moment. Like, we're all works in progress, right? We're all trying to get better in different aspects. Okay, that's fine. Maybe you're not at the pinnacle now, but you know where you can get to. So you want to go out there and kind of own that. Be like, hey, yeah, I'm the man. You know, maybe you can't quite see it externally yet, but I tell you what, I'm going to get there, whether you're with me or not. Okay, so yeah, you definitely want to go out. You don't want to self-sabotage yourself. It's her job to reject you, not your job to reject her. Okay, or your job to pre-reject yourself. If she wants to reject you, she's going to reject you. Don't worry about that. She'll do a very good job of it for you. So no, you need to go in there and you need to be confident. And confidence comes not only from self-esteem and mindset, but it also comes from knowing that you're working on yourself and you're going to get where you need to be, even if it's not today, okay? So that would be my thoughts on that. It's a really good question, actually. It's more of a sort of, this is a bit more of a, we're talking about Manosphere type stuff today, or you know, online stuff today, but that's a good question for self-development that we can talk about another time. Marriage causes divorce. Do you think YouTube will clean house and remove all Manosphere content and RP content over the coming years as we become more woke? Don't know, really. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, I think there are people who are able to talk about subject matter in a way that is more subtle and more nuanced. I was talking actually to Tusk yesterday about the guy who's called Psych Hacks. I think he's called Psych Hacks, that channel. And he's really, really good, actually. I really like his channel. He's got some great videos. And what he's able to do, he's talking about kind of all the same stuff, but he's quite mild-mannered. He's also a psychiatrist, so he's got that. But he's quite mild-mannered, and he's also able to sort of articulate it in a manner that doesn't seem offensive. So he might be saying the same kinds of things, but he's not doing it in a way that is likely to get him cancelled. I mean, look, who knows? On a long enough timeline, we all get cancelled, right? And we all go up to the great cancelled space in the sky. You know, we all go up to the great rumble in the sky. But it would seem less likely that a character like that guy, I think what's he called? Anyway, Psych Hacks he's called anyway. I forget his real name. But it seems like less likely a guy like him is going to get cancelled because he's talking about it in a fairly measured, nuanced, quite academic sort of way. And so I think there's always going to be room for that, you know. But who knows? We'll see. Do you think Rumble will be banned in the UK under the new online safety bill? I don't know. I mean, that's, you know, scary times. I've got no idea. I hope not, but maybe. SJ, so this is a contentious one. Have you talked to Tusk, Leslie, Torero, others about the issues to keep birth rates low? I don't think they are all that smart, but there's a gender war perpetuated, I think. Well, I mean, not really. I mean, if you think that that's the reason, I mean, I don't know. Not really, no. Why would it be beneficial to reduce birth rates? Let's not open up too big a rabbit hole here. I don't know. No, I mean, I haven't really had long conversations about that, really, no, because I think all of us, all the people you've mentioned there, I think we're all really sort of, how can I put it? I think we are less focused on that kind of speculation and we're more focused on building the best lives for ourselves possible, okay? That might sound selfish, but actually, really, selfishness is kind of a virtue when you're a guy living in 2024, right? You know, be your own mental point of origin. Don't think too much about politics. Don't think too much about, okay, this theory or that theory or what's going to happen or blah, 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 because a lot of it you can't affect anyway. And a lot of it's beyond your control. And, you know, we don't really have very clear visibility on any of this stuff. So personally, I think that is maybe it's an interesting thing to speculate on. It's not something I've spent a lot of time thinking very deeply about because it doesn't really, you know, I'm probably going to be dead in 25 minutes anyway, so it doesn't really affect me that much. The Hudsman, good to see you in the house, man. He says, bring back Tusk. I'm sure he will be back very soon. What do you think about Russell Brand being demonetized on YouTube based on allegations from old flames? Well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty unfair to suffer adverse career consequences on the basis of allegations that haven't been tested in court. Yes, I would agree. Can't really comment any further on that. It's not great, but this is kind of the way of the world. And I mean, ultimately, we still come up against the same thing, which is that Google and YouTube are their own company. They set the rules, and if they feel that you know, if they don't like some aspects of what you're doing, then they get to pull the plug, and that's just kind of how it is. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, what can I say beyond that, really? I mean, it's not great, but there it is. Right, Tusk comes like he's had a chip on his shoulder. I suppose the channel deleted isn't helping. It doesn't help sell though. Well, you'd be surprised. I feel Tusk is pushing too hard with his message. If a person doesn't want to be awakened, there will be no amount of effort able to make someone wake up. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, I know Tusk has started to get into Wes Watson and some other kind of content creators who are quite sort of hardcore in their message. You know, they're quite sort of like, listen, guys, this is what you need to do. Wake up, smell the coffee, etc. Being a bit more direct, a little bit more even aggressive in the message, okay? And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I think, yes, you're right. There are some people who, you know, won't be woken up regardless of what you do. But you might as well give it a damn good go. And if that means yelling at a camera occasionally, I don't think that's, you know, a terrible thing. James Altucher is a great business guy and author. What else is this? I think. Oh shit. I think most guys who have a little bit of money. Oh shit! Sorry. Just trying to read this thing here. Oh, for God's sake. I think most guys who have a little bit of money, lazy to learn game because his motivation to get sex. Why not just pay for play correct? It seems like most people don't care about the process. Well, the problem, yeah, oh, fine, okay, but the problem with that is a lot of guys don't want to, you know, pay for play, as you put it. You know, that's against their, you know, moral code or their ethical code or whatever. And also as well, I mean, it's generally speaking, I mean, it's not going to be the same as meeting someone who's organically attracted to you. I mean, I think what guys really want, as women want, kind of what every human being wants, is people who actually desire him. You know, you don't really want to be going into a situation where there's some woman who's kind of holding her nose and looking the other way because you've given her $500. I mean, that's not an ideal solution. It might be a solution in the short term that sort of satisfies the mechanical need for satiation, but it's not really a good substitute. So I don't think there's many guys. I think if guys are doing that who've got a bit of money, I think they're probably not helpful with it. I think the grey area thing, which is more like sugar dating, or where gifts are being given and stuff like that, but there is some level of, you know, reciprocal desire. I think that's probably more of an ideal solution. And the lines with that get very blurred, as I've said on other streams here, because, you know, you look at guys, if you look at somebody like the Tates, you know, their whole message was, not their message, I mean, their whole sort of avatar really was, okay, we're these super alpha guys, we got a load of money, you know, we get the best girls, we got the best cars, blah, blah, blah. Now, to what extent and look, there's a case going on at the moment. I can't comment on that. I don't know what, you know, anything about that really. But I mean, if you think of people like them, to what extent are the women being drawn in by the fact that there's money and there's some fun parties happening and there's opulence and glamour and extravagance and excess? To some extent, probably, right? It's hard for the woman to really separate that out. If it was the same dude, but he's sitting in McDonald's drinking, you know, a McDonald's cup of PG tips with a couple of little thingies of milk, and he offers her, you know, half in her cup, That's just not going to be he's just not going to be as attractive a proposition, even for the most good-hearted, ungold diggery type woman. It's just not as good. Okay, so there is a blurring of the lines with that stuff, but I think something that is just entirely transactional is just not very satisfying. Really, it doesn't really fill the gap as you describe it. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Orion Taraban, Psychax is growing rapidly despite talking about the same RP talking points. Yes, he is. And that's really interesting. And the reason is, drum roll please, because of the way he presents it and the way he presents himself. That's all it is. It's not that he's saying anything radically different. And actually, interestingly enough, Tristan made this point to Piers Morgan about Andrew. Recently, Tristan made the point to Piers Morgan when they did that interview that actually Andrew gets into trouble more because of the brusqueness of his style rather than because of the content always of what he's saying. And Tristan very shrewdly made a comparison with Christopher Hitchens, and he said, look, Christopher Hitchens actually, in this interview, said something very similar to Andrew, but Christopher Hitchens is lauded as, an intellectual and a deeply respected member of the academia and etc., whereas obviously Andrew is regarded differently to that. Okay, why is that? Well, it's to do with their presentation. It's to do with the manner in which they come across. Okay, it's so important how you present this stuff, how you come across. All right, and I think that this guy, Dr. Orion Taraban, he's doing a very, very good job because he's saying some stuff that, and actually another person who does it quite well, although in a way, I wouldn't be surprised if his books become more and more frowned upon, but is Robert Greene. Because Robert Greene actually, in his books, says some pretty dark stuff. It's pretty dark, it's pretty Darwinian, it's pretty dog-eat-dog. But he doesn't really get much criticism. Well, allegedly, I think his books were banned in US jails. I think 48 Laws of Power was banned in US jails, so I suppose there's that. But in general, he's a respected author. He's not getting, say, the level of criticism that someone like Jordan Peterson is. So he kind of flies under the radar. But actually, when you look at what he's saying, it's pretty nihilistic, and a lot of it's pretty dark. It's kind of amoral, which is one of the reasons I really like Robert Greene, because he's able to sort of get away with it, because so the manner in which you present yourself and the manner in which you present your message or your talking points is so key. And then when you compare that to, say, Andrew and Tristan, you look at them, they were quite sort of bold, they're quite brash, very entertaining, but it certainly wasn't under the radar, okay? And yeah, unfortunately sometimes the medium is taken as the message, and the message isn't very well interrogated by the powers that be, or fortunately. Psychack's great channel. Even Elon Musk is taking L's with woke Disney not advertising on Twitter. Well, didn't he say that he's not bothered about ad revenue, though? Didn't he make that speech the other day saying, fuck you, don't advertise then? Like, I thought that he was just basically saying, I don't care, we're just going to go ahead anyway. But, I don't know. Eric Linden says stream on multiple platforms. Well, yes, you can. I do. Not with this yet, but on my other channel, I stream to Twitter. I started streaming to Instagram. Great. But really, as we said before, for discoverability and for growing a brand, YouTube is the only game in town. You can grow on Twitter, actually, but it's... There are issues with that. And then you've got the Instagram platform, which is good, but you can only, you can't push the envelope too much there either. So I think what will be interesting is, and I've said this before, if X starts to evolve as a platform and the video hosting capability gets better there, it becomes searchable, there's a proper video page, stuff like that, I think it could start to be a contender. I think at the moment, I like to put videos up there. I put clips of stuff. I'll put short videos and things on X, and it's great, but they kind of sit there for 5 minutes in the timeline, and then they disappear, right? And I've put them into my highlights, and I suppose they're in the media section on my page, so people could search for them. But are people doing that? Probably not. I don't really. The only time I'll watch a video on X really is if I'm scrolling through and something pops up and I think that looks interesting, I better watch this. Now I know there are people like Tucker Carlson who's doing more like a point of view on there. So I suppose he's big enough to get away with that. But for us, You know, not really, not really. I mean, YouTube, unfortunately, is pretty much a monolith in terms of what it offers for the content creator at the moment. That may well change. That probably will change, but at the moment, that's kind of how it is. Get to 20 likes, guys. Yes, thank you, Pearl. Get to 20 likes. Please like this damn stream, for God's sake. We're trying to really help you here. We're really trying to sort of explain what's going on out there in the murky world of masculinity content, and the fact that basically we're all being screwed over. And the reality is, you know, you guys are watching this stuff, okay? You obviously get value from this. And people who watch this later, thank you for tuning in. Obviously, you guys get value from this stuff. Obviously, you guys are looking for, you know, whatever it is that this, you know, the need is being satiated by this content. And so the fact that this stuff is being stepped on should really be a matter of concern for everybody, because, you know, you've got someone like James, decent guy, good message, intelligent, articulate. Yes, he has his flaws, but, you know, whatever, who doesn't, okay? And it may be that he leaves the industry. It may be that he doesn't come back. I mean, I think they will do something. I think they, you know, he's looking at different options. I think he will start something, whether it's another YouTube or he goes to a different platform or, you know, whatever. But it's not guaranteed, you know, because unless you are of the scale where it just doesn't matter and you can just do what the hell you like. I mean, people need to make a living, and they need to, and, you know, they need to sort of, and they need to be recompensed for that, okay? So, you know, I would just, this is why this is so important, all right? And, you know, we were, as somebody said earlier, I mean, Fresh and Fit, right, they were able to weather the storm, and they seem to be doing pretty well now, okay? I think that's down to, you know, their own personal qualities, their personal resilience. They're also fairly anti-fragile anyway, because they've made a lot of money and they've made investments and so on and so forth. So, you know, who knows what's going on the balance sheet, as it were. I mean, that's obviously their business. They seem to be weathering it pretty well. They seem to be doing a great job. But, you know, they are in a very unique position. They are the number one men's podcast. You know, they are up there, right? So for them, maybe you can weather the storm a bit better. If you're a smaller content creator, even one who's much loved and who has been successful, that can be trickier to do, okay? So it's a problem. Why does Rollo hate Pearl? You like Troy Francis? I'm not getting into that. I don't know. I just work here. I keep my nose to the grindstone. I keep my eyes to the street. Keep my side of the street clean. I don't know really. There's some weird stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in these kind of spaces. You know, people get into beefs and there's ego involved and all this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, the details. You'll have to ask them. I Feel Half Naked says, love, and by the way, Pearl, I know, absolutely doesn't hate Rollo in any sense, in any shape or form. You know, she's always liked his work. You know, she's always been a fan of his and everything else. So I certainly don't think it's, you know, there's anything from that side. I Feel Half Naked says, I love your transition to street interviews recently. Thank you. That's interesting. So if you guys didn't see it, on this channel, we have just put up some street interviews I did in Mexico. I was in Mexico City. This was before Christmas. We went round with a camera guy, and we spoke to a bunch of different girls, women there, about marriage and infidelity and, you know, what they look for and whether infidelity is ever okay for a woman and all of this different kind of stuff. And it was really good. And I have to say, the way the guys here edited the video, it looks great. Really, really sharp, really flows really well. And there were some really interesting little conversations we had as well. So I would encourage you to have a look at that video. It's if you just search videos on my channel, you'll see it there. It's like the second to last one, or the one before that. And it's called Women Are Finally Facing Up to Their Delusions, or something. The title's something like that. Have a look at that. And then if you like that content, put a comment underneath and let us know if that's the kind of content that you want to see more of. Because obviously, you know, we're starting this channel. It's pretty new at the moment, pretty fresh. Think about, okay, so which direction are we taking this in? And it does seem like, I mean, the views for that was really good. So it does seem like people like that. But if that's something you want to see more of, then obviously let us know and, you know, can take it into account. All right. I Feel Half Naked says, because I Feel Half Naked, you used to be quite a big commentator on James's channel, didn't you? I think you were on there quite a lot. And my channel, the other channel as well, actually. So he says, what's that? He says, how long have you been in the game? How long have you been in the game? I wish I'm able to articulate my speaking points as good as you did. Well, I've been, I suppose, doing game, whatever you want to call it. I mean, really, I've been dating all my life because I haven't been married. And I don't have a family. I don't have kids. So, I've been in long-term relationships, right? So then there's been times when I've been, you could say, off the market, right? I've been in a monogamous or relationship with somebody. I've not been out there doing stuff, but I haven't actually been married. So those have been for finite periods of time. And then the rest of the time, I've just been dating. And I mean, even if you looked at that relationship, you would still say, well, they're boyfriend and girlfriend, right? So I suppose that means I'm not single, but it means that I haven't reached the point of marriage. So I've always been a bachelor. So in a sense, I've always been in it, right? I've certainly been for even the last couple of decades in London. I've certainly been out on the dating scene in London. Okay, with time off for good behaviour, or rather with time off for relationships. I've certainly been out and about. And then even before that, when I was in my 20s, I was, as I've said before, I was living in Manchester for quite a long time. I was going out there, going to the clubs, and I was doing a lot of dating stuff there as well. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing then. I was pretty rubbish at it. But one thing that I did do was I was able to, I really kind of flipped from being very introverted and quite shy and quite self-effacing to being actually very driven to go and meet people. And so what I would do would be I go to the club or the bar and I would just talk to everybody, and I talked to as many women as I could, and I would really seek to to make things happen for myself. Okay. And I didn't, as I say, at that time I hadn't really studied any of this stuff. I wasn't aware of what I was doing really. And the dynamics that are appropriate in a male-female interaction. I learned that stuff later, but I was just sort of operating off of, whatever, instincts. And, I got results. I got some success, largely through the fact that I was just approaching at volume, okay? And that was actually quite a good grounding to learn about the dating stuff, because Myron talks about this, because Myron will say, well, Myron used to, before Fresh and Fit got super big, Myron used to come on to Rule Zero with Rollo Tomasi and myself, and Rich Cooper, I think, was there at the time, and other people, Ryan Stone. And Myron would talk about doing cold approach himself. And what he used to say was, well, you've got to just go out there and talk to as many women as possible. And sometimes in Miami, he would talk to 40, 50 women in a night, in the clubs in order to try and facilitate something. So the requirement for volume is actually a really, really key part of this. And this is one of the first things that a lot of guys get wrong. They're not doing enough volume. They're not talking to enough people. Okay, that's the first thing. And then secondly, then it's like, okay, well, now you are talking to some more people, but what are you saying and how are you coming across? And are you coming across as that kind of dominant, high value dude, or are you, flanneling it, right? And that's where something like our course, The Edge, comes in, because we're seeking to help guys to come across better, in their interactions. And when I say better, it's not about being a nice guy, right? It's not about being super friendly. It's not about being super polite. It might be about being charming to some extent, but you've got to have a bit of edge to you, right? You've got to have a little bit of steel to you, because otherwise the woman's just going to be like, yeah, this guy, bit of a flannel, bit of a simp. I'm not really feeling it. I think I'm just going to not respond to this dude's messages, or I'm going to friend zone him or whatever. And that's what we want to avoid. Okay, so that's really where the focus in the dating coaching stuff has been in the last few years. In terms of speaking, you talk about articulating the speaking points. Well, obviously, I'm doing this for a job now, right? So I have to sit here in front of the camera and kind of make stuff up, right? I have to talk and continue to talk and to sort of improvise and think of things to say, right? So doing this as a job is very helpful, and then that has a knock-on effect in terms of one's dating life. Okay, so that's important. But on the other hand, just going out and talking to a lot of people is going to be really effective as well. So this clown says, you're sad at ASF, have been years and still only have 22 viewers, plus you've been on F&F. I started streaming a week ago and I got more likes than you and more pussy than you. Okay, man. Well, let's see the quality then. We need to see the receipts. This is a new channel. I do have another channel. I get more views than this. We're building this thing up. We're getting pretty damn good views. We're getting good engagement. And it's just going to grow from here. And I doubt, I mean, you don't seem to be a particularly intelligent person. I mean, the fact that you've come onto my stream and you feel the need to say that would indicate that you're triggered. So I would imagine, I mean, I can't, obviously we don't know, but I'd like to see some pictures of the these ladies that you're getting. I would imagine that the quality is not high, to be quite frank. So I'm sorry for you, and I hope you start to feel better soon. All right, anyway, any other questions, any other thoughts? Please put them into the chat, and we'll take it from there. We can watch a little bit more of this video just to see what else he says. Here we go. Hold on 1 second. Let's see what else he has to say here.
Fuck the lot of you, like with your fucking victim mentality. You sit there with your fucking Cheerios jerking off to some fat bird online, right? And tell me you're happy. You're not, right? So this is
He could be speaking to the last guy, couldn't he? He could be speaking to the last guy in the comments.
Pick up the ass, like, to people. Just get the fuck on with it, right?
Yeah.
Content is it's not a plan. That's it, right? Whether me and Les launch another channel is to be seen. Maybe I'll just go and fucking do something else. Maybe I'll move to Venezuela and become a coke dealer.
Don't do that.
Who knows? But if you resonate with our material, we've compiled it all into the edge, luckily, before I got taken down. So it's all there. Myself, Troy, and Les giving you actionable, the keys to the kingdom, you know, the real fundamental pillars, the biohacking of the hormones, the sexual shame mastery with Bonaparte. Dave Lee, one of the world's leading experts, man, pass on what we know and save you most valuable asset, time, because you don't have to make all the mistakes we've made. That's the point of getting a coach. We've done all the fucking time investment, and then we give you the keys to the kingdom to make your path as smooth and painless as possible. And if people don't understand that or you're offended by that, fuck off. And I would say unsubscribe to my channel, but you can't do that. But
so, yeah, I mean, he's being quite sort of bullish here. He's been quite gung-ho. Obviously, his channel's just been taken down. But fundamentally, what he's saying, what's wrong with that? You know, he's basically saying, look, you guys need to man up, okay? And that very simple expression, you guys need to man up, seems to me to be at the heart of the problem, because it seems to me that that's why everybody's getting cancelled and shadow banned and demonetized, right? Because they're saying versions of that, you know. I mean, why were Fresh and Fit demonetized? Well, there were a number of reasons for that, but essentially, if you do anything that kind of pushes the envelope, if you go against the social narrative in any way or shape or form, then, you know, unfortunately, there's a good chance that you are going to be cancelled, that you're going to get taken down, okay? And that's just the reality that we live in. Now, you might say, well, who cares? Why does it matter? Well, it matters because, you know, this is a guy who's put out a bunch of good content. He's really helped a load of people. And you could say the same thing, of course, about Fresh and Fit. You would say the same thing about Pearl. You would say the same thing about many of these other content creators who have been taken down. Why is it that mainstream society is so threatened by masculinity? Why is this such a big issue? Okay, and this is where the tinfoil hat brigade really come into their own. You know, we've had somebody already talking about, you know, trying to reduce birth rates and stuff like that. There are different theories about this. You know, the idea fundamentally, though, that whoever they are, want you to be controlled. They want you to be malleable. They want you to be lazy. They want you to sit there in your bedroom, eating your proverbial Cheetos in your pajamas with man boobs and belly fat, and not actually going out there and not actually achieving, okay? And that seems to be the common thread between all of these people, because the people who actually are going out there and bossing it and being successful, okay, and quite frankly, I mean, not putting out videos that are really that shocking. I mean, if you look at the Tusk stuff, for example, I mean, I get it with some content creators where there's a sense of like, all right, okay, well, you know, he's saying something now he probably really shouldn't say, or he's being like openly like misogynistic, or he's being openly this or that, you know, that's dodgy, that's skating the line. I mean, really, the reality is with Tusk, he never did any of that stuff, you know? It was always very, yeah, you know, I mean, it was always very sort of kind of playful and jokey, and, you know, said a few things that were a little bit off key, but it was never this super, super serious thing. So it does seem like there is this push And anybody got any comments on this, any questions, put them into the chat. There is this push against anybody coming out and really promoting masculinity in its own sense, okay, for its own sake. And I can only see that is just going to continue, okay? I can only see that that's just going to continue as we move forward. I don't think any of this stuff's going to get any better. I don't think this stuff's going to, going to sort of solve itself. I think it's just going to continue because that's just the way of the world now, right? I don't really see any way around it. It's a shame. As I say, I mean, I like James as a guy. I've known him for a long time. By the way, if you haven't liked this video already, like it now. We need to get up to at least 24 likes now, guys. So put your likes in onto this video. Also, if you've got anything that you want me to cover, we're going to finish probably quite soon, but if you've got anything that you want me to talk about or cover, or any questions about this, put it into the chat and we will get through that before we end. But we need to get up to 24 likes. Thank you, everybody, for your support so far. It's very much appreciated. The channel is growing quickly. We got loads more cool content that we're going to be putting out on here very, very soon. Yeah, keep it coming. Keep it coming, guys. Anything else here that we didn't go through? I'm not sure. Let's just have a look at over here. Rollo comes off like a boomer. That's a bit unfair. Jesus. Does anybody here have any of their own thoughts in terms of why this stuff is happening? And do you think, I suppose more importantly, do you think it will continue as we go into the US election cycle? I think I think we're going to see some pretty crazy stuff happening. I mean, every year, when you think about it from a news perspective, from a media perspective, from an online digital content creator perspective, every year gets crazier and crazier than the year before. I think we're going to see even more crazy stuff happening in 2024 than we did last year. Because I just, I can't see things going backwards in any shape or form. But I'd be interested to know what you think about that, if you've got any thoughts on this. Just having a look through and see if there's anything else here. I mean, I think fundamentally, look, the message really underneath all of this stuff is self-improvement. And often, even with the dating people who are talking about dating, they're talking about getting girls and stuff. Yes, that is the carrot to draw you in. But underneath that is the imperative to self-actualize as a guy, okay? The imperative to become, again, it's cheesy to say it, but the best version of yourself, right? And often what happens is that people will get drawn in to self-improvement. They'll get drawn into self-development because they think, I really want to meet that hot girl, or I want to get a date with Sally from the local cafeteria, or whatever it is. And then in the process of trying to get better at that, they actually get into self-improvement and they become better men, okay? And that really is should be the end game of all of this. I mean, yeah, it's great to get girls, and that's what we're going to be teaching you on this channel, as well as, advice for women about how they can get better relationships with men or get higher status men. But in the end, it's like, well, you should be doing stuff for yourself. You shouldn't be doing self-improvement just because, there's you want to get with some girl, right? That shouldn't be the main motivator. It can be a motivator, but it shouldn't be the main one. You should be doing this stuff for yourself, okay? Marriage causes divorce, says the 99% will always win. Yeah, I suppose you're talking about, well, the majority, I guess, you're talking about the kind of the rules of society, I guess. I guess you're talking about... I'm not sure if it's 99%, though. I don't know if you're talking about, shutting down... In the specific example of, say, shutting down dating channels or shutting down RP channels, I'm not sure if that's 99%. I think dating channels, actually... I think there's probably more acceptance out there in the wider world of, okay, well, guys have got to learn what they're doing, and there's nothing wrong with guys studying things about how to meet women. That's absolutely fine. What's the big deal? I think there's probably more of that feeling out there than we might think from the stuff that we see in the media and the stuff that we see on Twitter, right? Red pill, I'm not sure. That may be a smaller margin, but I don't like to talk about politics because the mainstream don't care about us. We can only protect our interests. It looks like a lonely world out here. Well, it's not a lonely world. If you come on this channel, man, come on this channel. We got 26 live concurrent viewers right now. That's not lonely. There's a group of us here. We can all hold each other's hands and hug and wish each other well and, comfort each other. It's fine. By the way, the numbers on stream we've had have varied depending on the topic. I mean, we did one. What was it the other day? We did one. Oh God, I did one the other day, and we had really big numbers on it. It wasn't about Destiny, was it? So obviously, we're sort of looking to see, okay, what stuff is resonating here? What stuff do you want to hear about? What stuff don't you want to hear about? I think this is a good topic because it's from the background that I'm from. It's from the background that we all work in, and it has certainly ramifications for my existing audience, right? But equally, look, what we're going to be doing as we go forward here is not just going to be about this stuff, right? We are also going to be talking a lot about actionable advice, okay? Because for me, that's the really important thing. Okay, for me, the really important thing, I mean, yes, it's kind of interesting to talk about content creators and Destiny's marriage and what this channel is doing, what that channel's doing, and that stuff has its place. But in the end, right, we need to be thinking, okay, so what's going to get me better results in my life one day at a time? And also, what results do I want? Like a lot of you clowns are sitting out there and it's like, well, I just want to find a nice girl and settle down. And it's like, well, okay, but, are you being realistic? I mean, it's 2024. Do you know what's going on out there? Do you know how tough things are? Do you know about the divorce rate? Do you know about infidelity? Do you know about unhappiness within relationships? I mean, is that really what you want? Or are you just saying that because that's what, your parents said, or that's what people around you are doing or whatever, right? So we're going to be very much leaning into the actionable side of things here as well, giving actual dating advice. And the other thing as well to say, guys, is if anybody has any dating conundrums that they want to talk about, they want to come on here, they want to get on a stream, get on a call with me, we do it via Zoom. We'll put it onto the screen. If you want to hide your face, you can, but obviously it'd be great if you come on fully. Then you can absolutely do that. Drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we'll have a conversation. We'll figure out, okay, is this something I can help you with? And then we'd like to get you on the stream. And that goes for women as well as for men. It would be really cool to get some of you guys on here so that we can have a conversation and we can dig into some real problems that people are facing out there, because that's, in the end, that's what it's got to be all about, right? I mean, the purpose of all of this stuff, in the end, is education, is trying to help people. Yes, there's an entertainment element of it. There's a drama element of it, but we need to get beyond that, and we need to get to the nuts and bolts of it, which is dating in 2024 is pretty fucking tough. A lot of people aren't getting the outcomes they want to get. So how do we change that? That's where we want to get to. Well, Fritz Flats says, I'm a Chad, so I don't care. Good day. Okay, well, Fritz Flats is fine. All right, he's a Chad. None of this is of any concern to him. Why is he watching it then? That's the only thing that confuses me. I suppose in his Chadness, he's just felt like he can just reach down from the cloud that he's floating on next to God with his Chadliness and sort of just, I'll just humour the little people for a moment. It's probably something like that. But anyway, it's good that he's a Chad. But if you're not Fritz Flats, if you're not a Chad, if you don't feel like you're getting the results you could be getting or the results that you want, then you do need to, well, first give me a like. We want to get up to 23 likes at least. And then you want to subscribe to this channel, hit the notifications, and look out for new videos, right? We've got stuff going up every day. We're doing these live streams on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 1400 hours, 2 p.m. UK time, which is 9 a.m. EST, 9 a.m. in New York, and it's 6 a.m. in Los Angeles. So we're going to be live on those days, 3 times a week for the time being, and we're putting up other content as well, including things like the Mexican street interviews, which people seem to like. It was really, really good. So, as I say, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, join us on this journey. We're going to be talking about loads more cool stuff. And if you've got any things that you want me to cover, anything you'd like to see me talking about on here, then again, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we can see if we can make it happen. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Do give me a like on the way out. Do subscribe to the channel. Do hit the notifications bell. Write a comment underneath what you thought about this topic and what other topics you would like to see on here. And I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.